أجمعين أما بعد يقول الإمام الطحاوي رحمه الله تعالى ومن لم يتوقع النفي والتشبيه زل ومن لم يسب التنزيه فإن ربنا جل وعلا موصوف بصفات الوحدانية منعوت بنعوت الفردانية ليس بمعناه أحد من البرية تعالى الله عن الحدود والغايات والأركان والأدوات لا تحويه الجهات الست كسائر المبتدعات والمعراج حق إلى آخره. Imam al-Tahawi rahmatullah alayh, we are going through the Aqidah that we will have ru'yat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We will have ziyarat and sight and didar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And about this Aqidah and about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Imam al-Tahawi rahmatullah alayh had said into the previous paragraph that we should not add anything from our own opinions or from our own estimations. We should not add anything. We should not interpret anything. And we should have total submission. And in this paragraph, Imam al-Tahawi rahmatullah alayhi is saying that if anybody who does not become extra careful in negating all the faults and uyub from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all types of tashbih, similarities of the creation, if person is not careful in negating similarities of creation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he will be drifted away from the right path. He will be deviated and he will not have correct tanzih. Tanzih means, when we say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim or word Subhan, we are declaring that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure from all qualities of creation, from all faults, from all uyub, from all weaknesses, from all ailments of the creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure. Why? فَإِنَّ رَبَّنَا جَلَّ وَعَلَى مَوْصُوفٌ بِصِفَاتِ الْوَحْدَانِيَةِ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qualities, they are unique. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qualities are unique. There Allah's qualities are not like the qualities of creation. مَنْعُوتٌ بِنُعُوتِ الْفَرْدَانِيَةِ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's attributes, they have total uniqueness. And what is the meaning of uniqueness? لَيْسَ بِمَعْنَاهُ أَحَدٌ مِنَ الْبَرِّيَّةِ Qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one cannot compare with the qualities of creation. And he is explaining more that ta'ala Allahu anil hudud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is independent from having any boundaries. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no boundary. Wal ghayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no end. Wal arkan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no limbs, no parts. We cannot comprehend onto the limbs of creation, onto the parts of creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure from that. Wal adawat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure from any space or any place. La tahwihil jihatu sittu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all six sides, like we have east, west, north and south, up and down. All these six sides, they cannot cater Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure from them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is independent from them. Some of the innovators, na'udhu billah, they have made these types of wrong connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. And then Imam al-Tahawi rahmatullah alayhi starting another Aqidah. It is about Mi'raj, ascension of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. ascension of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how it took place. He will go into the detail. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will have ziyarat and didar and ru'yat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannat. How it will take place, only Allah knows. We cannot describe it. We cannot explain it. We cannot express it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Our response should be full of submission. Whatever Quran and Sunnah had said, we accepted, we believe in it, we submit to it. How it will happen, only Allah knows. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will treat us, then only we'll come to know. When it comes to Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if they did not go into the lengthy description of any Aqidah, then we will have total submission. This morning we were talking about, like Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, into the worldly life. He made request to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbi arini andur ilayk. Oh Allah, I want to see you. Show me yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Lan tarani. It is impossible for you to see me. Walakin indur ila al-jabal, fa in istaqarra makanahu fasawfa tarani. Look at mountain. If your gazes will remain still, then maybe it will become possible. فَلَمَّا تَجَلَّى رَبُّهُ لِلْجَبَلِ جَعَلَهُ دَكًّا وَخَرَّ مُوسَى صَعِقًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't show himself. That's why, last time we had that long, lengthy conversation of our Sheikh Yunus rahmatullah. He has given that very ilmi and academic explanation. And that is what in this ayat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't show himself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent or throw some of his tajalli onto the mountain, and Musa alayhi salatu wasalam became unconscious, and that mountain could not bear the effect of that tajalli. He did not bear effect of that tajalli. So that was the case of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. We will go into the Aqidah of Mi'raj. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam went for Mi'raj, and the closeness which was given to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam from the creation, no one had that much of closeness. But then also, when it comes to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to look at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ulama and sahaba, they have difference of opinion. Some of them, they have opinion that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw, and some of them, they have opinion that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't see. If it is the case of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then beside Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and beside Musa alayhi salatu wasallam, where they will stand. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us correct understanding of Quran and Sunnah. We were talking this morning. There was a gathering of some arifin, some pious people. Like some business people, they come together, then they will talk of business. If some doctors come together, then they will talk of medicine. Some scientists, they come together, then they will talk of science. Like that, some arifin, they came together. Mutasawwifin, arifin. So everybody, started talking from his maqam or from his position about the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When everybody finished, there was one young person, he remained silent. He didn't say anything. I'm mentioning the story so you will understand what Imam al-Tahawi rahmatullah alayhi is trying to say. So this young person didn't say anything. So one of his teacher or one of his senior asked that, "Oh Abu Muhammad, you are not saying anything?" So he said, "No, what your good points of ma'rifat, closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what your good points were there, all of you have shared. You have left nothing for me." So they said, "No, you will have to say something." So you know what he said? He said, "Whatever you all were talking, it was just the ilm, it was mere ilm. And mushahada is something else." Listen to this. Listen to this carefully. He said, whatever you all were talking, it was just the ilm. Mushahada is something else. So, they became more attentive. That, he brought these two very interesting terms. That whatever you shared, it was just the ilm. Mushahada is something else. So they said, no, what you are trying to say? He said, you people have ability of ilm. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had granted me mushahada. Mushahada means that I have no veils between myself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is mushahada. That is mushahada. That is what I have. So they said, okay, open it up, what you are trying to say. So he said, I was once at the field of Tabuk, and I was in ibadat. I was remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all of a sudden, all the veils were lifted, and I could see Arsh. And then he described the Arsh. And he said, I had that direct communication with no veils. All the veils were lifted. So, one of the teachers, after the gathering was over, he said, no, let's go. He took this young man, and then all the Arifin, they followed. They came to one Muhaddis. It was the place called Shiraz. Shiraz has produced great Arifin. Shiraz, it's a very productive land. It has produced many great Arifin, great ulama, great scholars. So it was the incident of Shiraz. So they went to one Muhaddis house. Said, let's go and visit this Muhaddis. So Muhaddis, he was shocked at so many Arifin, so many Mutasawwifin, they are visiting me today. So when they were into his majlis, so this Abu Abdullah made a request that you narrate one hadith sharif from Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it is an Arsh Iblis. It is about the throne of Iblis. Please, can you narrate that hadith sharif? So that Muhaddis narrated the hadith sharif. I think that hadith sharif is from Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had described that Iblis also has his own throne, his own arsh, and his throne is being described that it is encompassing the whole horizon. It is very vast, it is very big, and that throne is being described. So that hadith sharif that Muhaddis narrated, this young man said, can you narrate this hadith sharif again? So he made him repeat that hadith sharif second time. After, he narrated that hadith sharif, that young man was crying. He was crying. And his teacher said that after this gathering, he was nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be found. And teacher was looking for him. After a long time when he met him, he said, where were you? He said, you took us to that Muhaddis, and it was the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From long time to that day, I had repeated all my salats. I had repeated all my salats. And I went to that field of Tabuk, and I sent the curse onto shaitan, onto Iblis. I said, La'natullahi ala Iblis. I went there and I made sure that I curse Iblis. I sent la'nat onto Iblis. Why? Because he said, I was under the impression that the arsh which I was watching, I was seeing, I was having mushahada, I was thinking that all the veils are lifted, there is no veil between myself and arsh. That was the arsh of shaitan, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was the arsh of shaitan, not the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us correct ilm. Sometimes emotions, they lead us into no man's land. If we don't have correct ilm, safe and sound ilm of Quran and Sunnah, sometimes, we arrive at the wrong place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So here, we will have mulaqat and meeting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannatul Firdaus. But we should not go that how it will take place. We should, if we don't have detail mentioned by Quran and Sunnah, then why should we add our own opinions? Why should we adding our own emotions? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. So that is our imtihan of iman, imtihan of iman, that whatever Quran and Sunnah has mentioned, we should submit to it as it is. Kama yaliqu bi shani. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have His meeting between Himself and ourselves. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have, we will see there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us correct ilm and correct understanding of Quran and Sunnah. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from innovations. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that type of, views and commentaries which are not being affirmed and confirmed by Quran and Sunnah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. I don't know what will happen from tomorrow. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us alive and give us death onto the whole